One time my ex told me I have ears like Dumbo. They stick out a little bit, but they're not that bad. Laughed it off, but I haven't been able to get it out of my head since then. It's been over a year. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for participating in the thread, everyone. Story 1. My then partner, after explaining to me all their big plans and life goals and how they were going to change the world and wouldn't settle for less, ended with, and then there's you. You just want to be loved. As though the grand summary of me is a lonely one half of a couple, and I'm that easily dismissed, and they were entirely right. Nod along and save my existential crisis for later. Still not entirely sure if I'm some malfunctioning person for not having aspirations. Edit. I firmly believe that, as per the title of this thread, they meant no harm by it and were genuinely just trying to convey a difference in our life goals as they saw it. It just hit very close to home and stuck with me that perhaps having a small self-centered aspiration made me a smaller, more selfish person. After all, finding love and contentment isn't going to end government corruption or feed starving children. I've been assured, thank you all, that this isn't the case. To anyone else who relates to this, you're not less valuable if you don't need to change the world to feel complete. Chase your happiness and try not to hurt anyone. That's about all there is. Story 2. My dad got drunk one time, and I know he was trying to be endearing, but he said, even though I know you're never going to amount to anything, I will always love you. And here I am at 32 with a poor job, living in his rundown house. Story 3. My ex drunkenly said my roommate and good friend was very attractive. Normally, that wouldn't bother me, but the fact that she never gave me compliments upset me for the entire night. Story 4. When I let out my real laugh, it sounds like the Batman theme song. Na 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 na. You get the gist. It always happens when someone cracks a good joke and my na-nas come out. One person always points out I have a weird laugh, and then I'm stifling myself the rest of the night. Story 5. Happens whenever someone new meets my wife. She is better looking than I am, just kind of objectively true. There almost always is some joking comment about how she is too pretty to be with me, or that I must have some blackmail on her, or that I need to work on myself so she won't leave me. I've had a long unlucky streak with my health that this is usually a reference to. Always said with a smile. Never funny to me. Story 6. When I got roasted by my teenage son around a campfire while visiting an old family of friends, I grew up with this family, and they have known my boy since forever. He's always been shy until that night. I was proud that he opened up like he did, but it was at my expense. Although the things he was saying my friends already knew about me, it just hit differently hearing my faults as a father and a person out loud from the boy I'm trying to raise not to be me. Story 7. My favorite teacher in middle school was teaching a lesson on World War II and said, "Do you guys know what Jewish people look like? They have dark hair and big noses." Like, insert my name. I was never self-conscious about my nose before that. For your information, I'm not Jewish. Story 8. I get knocked every time my girlfriend mentions that despite my success so far in life, I am a university dropout. I mean, it isn't a big one, but every time it gets brought up, it stings a bit. She works in a school and uses me as an example that you don't have to go to university to do well in life, but it's not the kind of thing I like to be praised for. Story 9. Friends have been calling me egg for years now because of my head shape. I'm over it at this point, but this started in the early stages of my depression, and it was hard to kick those thoughts at first. Story 10. After I broke up with my ex, my best friend told me, "I was hoping it would work out. You're kind of undateable." I'm pretty sure he meant it in jest, but it hit deep since the relationship ended because of a lot of my personal flaws that I haven't been able to fix. Story 11. Last night at my close friend's home, he was trying to set me up with this one girl. She's pretty and really nice, but he said, "If it doesn't work, I understand. You aren't the most attractive one either." It hit kind of hard since I broke up with my ex, and I have been questioning my own self-confidence. We did connect, so it felt a bit better, but it still stung quite a bit. Okay, now this gained more attention than I thought it would. I have some updates, actually. The girl has asked me to go out with her, and my friend called me today and apologized for what he said yesterday, stating that he didn't mean it in a bad way. So everything is good. Story 12. I am not sure I can handle a whole weekend with you. For context, this was said by my group of friends that I have gone through thick and thin with. Our friendship is one of those where we playfully antagonize each other from time to time. Whether it be poking fun at some new shoes or talking smack about a new job, it has always been for the sake of laughs. One day we took a trip to the mountains since we rented a cabin, and that is the first thing that was said as soon as we got in the car. We all laughed along and started teasing each other, but it did sting a bit. It did not ruin the weekend by any means. Still had lots of fun throwing snowballs at my friends and such. But those words hit a little differently every time I think of them. Story 13. My mother, growing up, was always going to school and trying to remake herself. When I was around 16, I realized she was always telling people and myself that she never wanted to make the mistakes she did with me with my brothers. It was constant, to the point that I heard that line daily for years. If I asked her to please stop saying it, she wouldn't. She couldn't understand that it implied I was always a mistake. To clarify for people, my mother had undiagnosed bipolar disorder and went to rehabilitation about 7 times. Money was never the issue except for overspending. She was and is a doctor of pharmacy. She went to rehabilitation because she self-reported when I was around 20. My brothers and I have a 14-year age difference. Story 14. I had a lot of trouble with toothaches and other dental issues. At a family gathering, we had all ordered Chinese food with an assortment of dishes to pick from as you like. I went to grab a rib, to which one relative commented, "You don't want to bite into that, not with your bad teeth." That happened about 14 years ago, and I still feel the upset. I am glad to say my teeth were all repaired, though, and are in fine order. Story 15. My mates once bragged about how they went to a theme park and it was a Craig-free day. I'm Craig. Kind of funny, I guess, but it was still a bit personal. Story 16. My brother once jokingly said, "Good luck being painfully average, with your average-looking wife, good but dead-end job, and locked into a mortgage for the rest of your life." Unbeknownst to him, my biggest anxiety is being unremarkable and just making up the numbers for the rest of my life. The comment rattles around my head daily. Story 17. Whenever a close friend teases me for being mixed ethnicity, half this or that, it stings because I have a lot of trauma about it. I was treated differently by my extended family, othered, and considered less than. My identity was always questioned by people. Story 18. I was playing board games with some people last week, and another Dave was playing with us. This girl jokingly called me the evil Dave, and I have no idea why. I even said something like, "How am I the evil one?" but didn't get a response. It's not even about being compared to another Dave. I try to be a good person overall, and when someone calls you evil and doesn't explain why, I just felt dead inside. Story 19. I had been talking to this woman for a while, and things were fairly serious at times. I had to work a lot one day, and she texted me saying she was bored and I needed to hurry home. I said, "You missed me, huh?" And she said, "I missed your company. After all, I'm just with you for really good companionship. I've had a lot of one-night stands and a lot of women that just wanted to be casual partners and nothing more. Not to mention I lost my virginity at 14 because a 25-year-old woman drugged my drink. Being nothing more than a sexual object, especially to someone you really like, doesn't really feel all that fantastic." Story 20. Anything that's something they don't realize is important to me. For instance, my dream is to be a race car driver, but I still have a lot of doubt in my abilities. Whenever someone takes a crack at my driving, I die a little because it brings out my own self-doubt. Story 21. Well, I'm 19, skinny as anything, approximately 110 pounds, and everyone I've met always encloses their fingers on my wrist and tries to go up as far as they can. I'm not hurt about it. It's just that I've had it happen so many times. Story 22. I sing and play guitar. I have always been told I have a good voice. I myself think it is okay, like you would enjoy it around a campfire, but I am not going to get a record deal or anything. My ex drunkenly told me she thought I was a bad singer. Killed my confidence. That was about 5 years ago, and I still think about it every now and then when I sing, even alone. She used to say a lot of hurtful things drunk without realizing it. Story 23, female here. I told my fiancé he looked like Woody from Toy Story. I could tell it stung after I said it. But now he says, "You're lucky you get to be with the sheriff for life." So he's my Woody. Story 24. I have an abnormally high metabolism. For years, I have tried to gain weight with advice from various nutritionists and protein diets, and I am still 20 pounds underweight. My mother, father, stepmother, and stepfather always playfully say I am too skinny or, "Oh, you really need to eat more." It gets especially worse around the holidays. I tell myself that I am used to it, but every time I hear it, it still hurts. The older I get and the seemingly less progress I seem to make, the more it hurts to be called too skinny, as if I have an eating disorder. I love myself for who I am and am always trying to become the best version of myself I can be physically, emotionally, and mentally. But hearing this from the people I love the most cuts deep. Story 25. My girlfriend's cousin said I laugh like Sloth from The Goonies. My girlfriend did not know what that was, so they watched a quick YouTube video, and she agreed and laughed about it. The thing is that it is my true laugh, and I finally felt comfortable enough to let it out around them. Now I hide it again. Story 26. My mom told me that she tells people that I was her surprise child, that she never thought would amount to anything at all. But now I'm doing better than both my brothers. So, I guess she followed that up with a semi-compliment, but as soon as she said the first part, I was like, that's rude. Story 27. You wouldn't get it because you're an immigrant. I knew she meant it as a joke, but I've always had trouble understanding who or what I exactly am. I feel dissociated from both cultures in some ways, and that joke just kind of felt like a slap in the face to all of my efforts to assimilate. Story 28. I was at a party and a girl asked me to pretend to be her date, so another guy would leave her alone. We ended up having a fun time, so we went on a real date a couple of days later. After the real date, she said, "You're a great fake boyfriend." She meant it as a joke to play off the fake date experience, but it was still a terrible thing to hear at the end of a great date. We've been married for years, and sometimes I call her a great fake wife. Story 29. My wife is not allowed to comment on my weight. I have always been too fat, lost a bunch over the last years, but I'm still 15 kilograms away from my goal. I'm hypersensitive about this topic, though, and I can take criticism from anybody else in the world by laughing it off, but not from her. When she joked around with this a year or so ago, I almost completely lost it. You're supposed to have my back. If you, of all people, make a joke of this, I can't deal with this anymore. Story 30. This happens all the time. People will ask what I'm doing now that I've graduated high school, and I'll say that I'm working on a construction crew. Then they'll say something like, "Well, what do you want to be doing?" Or, "Don't worry, you'll find something better." I just kind of ignore it, but it really gets to me. I absolutely love my job, but so many other people see it as a low-level, degrading position. I even got that kind of thing from my mom a few times. Story 31. My sister once said, "Whoever thought that dude would be the breadwinner out of us?" That was a little over a decade ago. The egg is on her face, though. I'm still the least successful out of the three of us. Oh wait. Story 32. My wife says playfully, but far too often, that my teeth are like a bag of chips or gravestones in an old cemetery. I've never really had any insecurity about my teeth or mouth until she brought that up, but I try to ignore it. This has also filtered down to our daughter, who also teases me about it and a brown tooth that I have too. Good times. Story 33. Not sure if they were trying to be funny, but when I introduced my family to my girlfriend, now wife, the first thing said by any of them was from my sister, "She looks prettier in pictures." Story 34. My father and I were having a drink, and he decided to give me some fatherly advice. He said, "Son, don't have children. They just aren't worth it. I'm an only child." Story 35. In private, she would praise my size and skill in the bedroom, but with friends, she would make little remarks to the opposite. At first, I thought she didn't want her girlfriends to hit on me, but that gets old and painful fast. Story 36. My younger brother had a Christmas dinner for friends and insisted I come. I went, And the conversation turned to me asking why my brother's friend doesn't talk to another friend. Turns out the fellow was stealing from his business and he just cut ties. I said it must be hard to find good employees. My brother said something like, yeah, not like original gangster faker. Referring to me, they all erupted in laughter, and I was just standing there wondering why they all thought I was presumed to be a terrible employee. I work very hard as a tradesman, and I still don't understand his thinking. My wife confirmed that I hadn't heard it wrong. It's been going on since we were kids, so I just cut ties. It's been 3 years or so, and I still don't care to go back to it. Story 37. My girlfriend moved to another town with her mother. They had trouble finding people to help, so I offered to help the whole day. I am not very strong and more of a skinny guy. She said something like, "How is a stick like you supposed to help? I bet you break in two when you lift something heavy." I said nothing about it, but it was very rude in my eyes, even as a joke. Story 38. At Jersey Mike's with my friend, I got a different sandwich than I normally get. I remarked that variety was the spice of life, and he laughed and said, "No, women are the spice of life, but you wouldn't know anything about that. I've been single for over a decade, and this really stung. That overweight person has had 2 divorces.